start collecting your materials. As much as I'm telling you, start collecting your materials, and I'm listing this, don't write it down, because every funder will clearly write what you have to include in the proposal. Make sure you have it, so that by the time you're writing it, you can put it all together. Yes?
Can you use the mic, please?
Yes. Okay, so to just help you through, it just making sure that it's neat and organized, let's see how we're supposed to stand here. Start to collect all the supporting documentation that you're going to need. It's like a tickler here. If you're ever in the paper, you got a press release, you want to have a file folder in your cabinet of a copy of your press releases. Funders oftentimes want to see that. Your flyers of different events and trainings and happenings that you're having in your organization, save a copy. Sometimes funders say specifically don't send me, or sometimes they want to see it. So that's what it means to start collecting your materials. Okay. We want to continue exactly this. You know, this is our goal. Show me where to find them. Show me where I can find the money to run my organization, do my mission and my vision. There are state government grants and federal government grants. In the beginning, as part of Joe's introduction, he showed you the DYCD website, which gives you great reference to the different funding opportunities that are out there. Let's look at other opportunities, especially grassroots organizations. You know, take the pride that you deserve. You're waking up in the morning and you're providing a service in your community. Local businesses, you're doing a job for local businesses. I always say you're their foot soldiers. You're improving their neighborhood. Because of you, people have, the way we heard now in the beginning when everyone presented about their vision and their mission, people are empowered, they worked on their self-confidence, they can get jobs, right? We heard all the key words. When people are getting jobs, there's money in the economy, they're shopping in the local businesses. More than that, local businesses have a charitable, a dollar and interest. Go to them to ask them for support. Sometimes they give you green dollars to support an event that you're having, and sometimes they give you, exactly. And if you don't have to buy in Staples something that someone gave you, right there, that's more money in your budget. Universities could give space. So again, these are opportunities that you should be aware of. Then we have foundations and corporate, whether it's foundations or corporations. Well, how do we go about doing the search? So I put this up over here on the board for you to see. And it's important to know. Now, I'm going to keep it up there. I don't have to read it to you. But I will, it's going to be the next slide, but I'm going to emphasize that as much as I'm saying to you, know your resources that are out there. Foundation Center has an excellent online website that provides you the tools to be able to do such specific searches. And if you can take a day off or a half a day off and go to their library on 5th Avenue, they work you through the whole process to identify leads of foundations and learn the foundation application process, again, in a step-by-step matter. You're going to hear sometimes about big grants that are given, and those become like your big elephants. Oh, you know, I also want to get that size grant. Well, that's good. Have that vision. That should be part of your vision. How do you get that big size grant? How do you get that big elephant? One bite at a time. And as long as you're doing specific action goals to be able to get to that goal of one bite at a time, you're heading towards success. The minute you're getting that feeling of, oh, I also want to do that, Kathy and I are both coaches, we come to tell you, your intuition, that feeling is your potential. You're having that feeling because you can achieve it. Our goal in such a workshop is to give you the small goals that you can set for yourself so that you can reach the bigger goals and your bigger, don't call it fantasies any longer. Those things can happen. Okay. So here's where my screen is that tells you go on the Foundation Center online. It's an excellent resource. Chronicle of Philanthropy, there's looking up the I-990s of different corporations and foundations. Okay, then we have to go back to our big question that we ask ourselves. Does this grant opportunity work for me? So you're going to do your homework and you're going to go on Foundation Center online, you're going to go in person, and everything about this lead makes so much sense to you. You can't run away from the big question that you have to ask yourself. Well, does this grant opportunity really work for me? What do we mean by that? Does your project meet the funder's interest? That's part of your research and why you have to research it so well. It's part of the trust building with the funder that you're applying to. Are you an eligible applicant? What's your eligibility? Does it support projects in your area? Look at that. Sometimes they write very clearly that they give in Chicago or in a different city, so that it's not for you. Okay, this is a very important pointer. Most funders, city or private foundations, they're not interested in giving your general operating support. They're not interested in giving money for the light bulbs and for the cleaning agency. You have to always be applying to do specific projects, to do specific services. When you're creating your budget includes your full expense to make these services possible. But don't find yourself writing a proposal to ask for general operating support of staff or, general monies. That's not what they're interested in. They're interested in doing a service, and if you're the agent and you're the person that's making that service a reality, then they're going to read more about your proposal that you're submitting. Very important, look at the size grants that they're giving. If they're giving generally $20,000, don't ask for 50. If they're giving generally $5,000, don't ask for 15. Meet them where they're at. Know what's involved in the application process. If you're supposed to submit a full proposal, if you're only supposed to submit a letter of inquiry, if they have a specific timeline that you have to keep to, read it carefully. And what are their grant criteria, and go point by point to make sure that, yep, check, check, check. Oh, this is not for me. So that's it, it's off your list. Any questions? Yes?
Can I search for a grant according to what I do? So let's say I provide professional services for incarcerated. Can I just go grants for incarcerated youth,
Yes.
professional services?
Yes, yes, yeah. And that went back to that other colorful screen that I had on, the selection criteria, and that's what you'll see on Foundation Center Online. It's a database. Database goes by specific fields, and incarcerated is very likely to be one of them. The timing, make sure to check their timeline and make sure that it fits into the time that you're proposing, the time of providing the service, etc. So, we went through a full laundry list about how you prepare yourself to make sure that you're really ready and fit a good match with the specific funder. Again, do your homework, because I repeat it to be emphatic about it, to make sure that it sticks. Know the grant maker. Know your colleagues and ask them for help. That's all about connecting and what we said before. Know yourself, your time, your capabilities, and your limitations. What can I realistically execute on this? Be real with yourself. And like we said before, just because it's a good idea doesn't merely mean that it's a right match for this funder for right now. And that's the stock taking that you take with yourself. So, back to the core. Number one, be totally clear on your vision and mission. Number two, relationships, relationships, relationships. I heard on a panel of funders years ago that, and this is an empowerment to each one of you in the audience. There was different people on the panel of funders, and one of the guys represents a family foundation, and he gave two most valuable pointers that always remain with me. One of them, he said, I represent a specific family foundation. So I can't tell you about all foundations, because just as all families are different, all family foundations are different. But I'll tell you one thing that's very important. Always remember that funders fund people, not programs. Relationships, relationships, relationships. He says what that means is if you're part of an organization now and you connect with a funder, it's you and the funder that's connecting. He's connecting with you as a person and what your vision is, what your mission is, where your passion is. And he believes in you. If in half a year from now or 5 years from now, that organization closes down or you decide to move and you go back to the same funder, how likely is it that he's going to listen to you? Highly likely, because foundations fund people. You have the connection with them. Relationships is such a core, valuable point. And then he said another very good point that was in relation to the same topic of relationships. He says, you're making a relationship with the funder. And you see it especially in foundations. You have a responsibility through your active listening skills. You're coming to educate them about what you do. But part of a lot of what we saw in the prior screens is your homework of knowing their interest, their areas that they're specifically interested in funding. So he says your responsibility is to connect with the funder and really listen to what they melt from, what they get most emotional about. Go back to the beginning when Kathy was talking about, your vision has to be emotionally charged. People respond to emotions. They decide to give based on emotions. So by knowing and connecting with your funder, that's the part of relationship that's always going to work in your favor and come back to be of support to yourself. Educate yourself on fundraising strategies, and again, that's why you're here today, and that's why you're all doing the right thing. Fundraising opportunities, just a brush stroke through it. I want to just make sure to save the time for our overcoming the obstacles. This is just for you to look at, okay, so what should I be aware of? What fundraising opportunities are there out there? So there's individual giving, corporations, foundations like we reviewed before. Direct mail is great. It also can be costly. So you have to, again, ask yourself the question, is it the right thing for me to be doing right now? Government funding, like we're here today. Earned income, if there are specific services that you're providing and you can charge for, it becomes in your budget as one of your areas that you have income from. So whether it is you sell a book or you provide a service that costs something, that's part of your earned income. Doing special events, and special events could be very small bake sales or bigger dinners. What you need to have at all times is a balanced portfolio. So I'm going to skip a screen and then I'm going to come right back. What I'd like to ask you in the audience, and it's to be able to make a specific goal for yourself, listening to this and hearing this, let's go back here and say, okay, so if I put it on a balance scale, what am I doing now very strongly? And what do I perhaps want to make myself a goal that within the next 3 months, I want to give a try to what? What are these bullets? Do you want to make a personal goal for yourself of something you want to branch out and try to add to your fundraising portfolio? Take a minute to write that down. Great. Whenever we give a workshop, it's about us educating you and not just enlightening you or for you to be sitting here, and during the workshop is always very invigorating and gives a good feeling to the presenter when you see an insight, when you see somebody's light, their eyes sparkle because they just had a good idea based on something that we educated you on. Insights are excellent. What's going to happen at 8 o'clock when you leave and get busy with your next thing of the evening? That insight is going to flee. It's just going to pass. What I want to give you the skill is that when you're sitting here, I put up this screen and take the insight of everything that was shared within the last section of the fundraising opportunities, fundraising goals, things you should be aware of, and answer these 3 specific questions. Because that is what really is the gift of coming here tonight. It's not easy coming out in the evening, but you came to learn. My goal is you should come home with homework also. Because just like we're very emphatic that our kids should do their homework so that they can strengthen their learning muscle, we want to have that same set of standards for ourselves. So take a minute to write down your specific fundraising goals with the 3 questions that are up here so that you can come home with a specific follow-up. So tomorrow morning when you're at your desk, you go back to, I was thinking last night of 3 things, but I can't remember it now. Well, write it down. By writing it down, we lock in the learning. Here we go. So you should be thinking and writing. Number 1 is whenever you're selling your idea to a funder, you want to make sure that they're getting the message that this is a transformational gift. They're going to cause transformation. They're going to cause change because of it. And always remember that all your hard effort, the same way we said, funders fund people, not programs. Giving begets giving. You're going to give. It's part of that, strong building of the relationship, and very likely the next year you'll be able to apply to the same funder because that relationship was built. That trust is there. So now brings us into the final segment of where I'm going to talk on, and then I want to hand back the mic to Kathy so that we can really end on a high note and end on time. I'm just telling you that giving begets giving. And if you build trust with somebody, with a funder, and they trust in you, and then you write a strong proposal, you get the money, you're already in a very good place. That said, we can't lose sight of the fact that today, louder than ever, funders are telling us and yelling outcomes. It's all part of your valuation. So you said you're going to do so and so and so. You said you're going to do help formerly incarcerated men and women, get them jobs. So tell me, how successful were you? How do you evaluate? Tell me about your outcomes. To come up with an outcome, and so many organizations are just struggling with this. How am I going to effectively talk about my outcomes in the most empowering way? And it's part of your handouts that you have that were part of this class today. If you want to be able to talk about your outcomes in a clear and easy way, this is a model to follow. Number 1, what problem and needs was I addressing? This is part of when you wrote the proposal. That's what you were talking about. What's the problem and need that you're addressing? What's my objective and outcomes? This is what you wrote in your proposal. What are my objectives? What am I telling you I'm going to do because of the money that you're going to give us? And How am I going to go? How am I going to do it? So I'm going to help people get jobs. I'm going to help, and funders want specifics. How many people do you think you can, with this amount of money, how many people will you give jobs to? Then you have to talk about the methods, how you got them jobs, and why you use the specific method. So this is a good model to use. What problem need am I addressing? What are my objective outcomes? What am I hoping to achieve? And why I'm choosing to use this method. And we use this model when we're writing the proposal. Now, we have to talk about, okay, comes end of year, what are your outputs? What did you really do? You were successful, you got the $20,000. What input, what were you doing now to achieve what you wanted to achieve? What activities were you running? So based on your activities, what were the outputs? How many people were showing up? How many people went on interviews? How many people got jobs? How many people kept a job more than a month? More than a week? More than 3 months? Okay, so this is a good logic model to use, and it's all based on data. You're going to need this data to be able to report back to the funder most effectively. And it's going to be your job. You should be aware of it. Okay, let's jump into it. Thank you. Thank you all for listening.
Okay. So, Haya mentioned that we're both coaches. And one thing that we do as coaches is we work with people to look at what gets in the way of them achieving the things they want. Whether it be something individual in their lives or something, external in their lives. So here we've gone over all the great things and ways to raise funds and to get money and all the things that Haya talked about. So we have the mechanics. But how many of us know the mechanics of something but don't follow through? I mean, I always say, look, we certainly know in this country, for instance, how to lose weight. It's not that we don't know the mechanics of it, okay, but we don't do it. So it's not about not knowing the mechanics. It's other things that get in our way, and the same is true of fundraising. So let's look at that, because how many of you find it uncomfortable to ask for money? I mean, I will raise my hand and say that I find it uncomfortable. Most people do, okay? Okay, so we understand the giving part, okay? Again, it's the asking part. That's the part that makes us like crazy, all right? So we're going to look at some of the things that get in our way that bar us from achieving the results we want. And actually, the stuff I'm going to be talking about applies to anything in your life, really. But one of the things that gets in our way is beliefs. Okay? Listen, everyone sitting in this room has some kind of a belief about asking for money. Okay? Some kind of a belief that developed when you were younger, or that's you've been socialized to believe, or whatever. Okay, we all have them. So so let me ask you, what do you think what's a belief that might get in your way, even though you know all this great stuff that I told you? What's a belief that might get in your way that's going to prevent you from picking up that phone or going to that event and asking for money?
Fear of rejection.
Okay, so you believe, so great, so because most things come from fear. Okay, so what is it that you believe that can cause you to feel scared? And maybe if you have an answer, that's fine. If not,
No, I'm saying the whole fear of being rejected.
right? Because we somehow believe that if we ask for money and we are rejected, then we're a failure. Right? So we don't even want to ask. And you had your hand raised too?
One of the beliefs is they're already funding a program like mine, or they're already giving their money away.
Right. So why should they fund me then? Right. Okay. And even below that, we have a lot of, start to ask yourselves, what are the beliefs that I have around money and asking for money? Okay. We in coaching call them limiting beliefs. These are beliefs that we have that are just out there, that we just take on to be true. That doesn't mean they're true, but we believe them to be true. These are some examples. I'll get to it. Okay, so limiting beliefs are general beliefs. They may be coming from your family, they may be coming from your culture, they may be coming from the external world. These are examples. To get a good job, you must have a college degree. Now, most people believe that, right? I mean, that's just something we've been taught. It's out there. Is it a truth?
Not an absolute truth. It's not absolute.
It's not a truth.
Bingo on it.
Okay? Because let's say you were someone who didn't go to college. And you really believed that you have to have a college degree to get a good job. How do you think you would feel, and how would that impact your ability to go out there and look for a job? It would probably negatively impact it, right? Because you believe that's true. Men are better athletes than women. Of course, we know that's not true. The world is not a safe place. There's a whole bunch of them here. No pain, no gain. That's a big one. Who says you have to have pain to gain? Who says that's true? All right? Asking for money is like begging. How many of you, at some level, if you're really honest with yourself, believe that?
No, that's, yes. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. Okay? That's going to impact you. That belief is going to impact, is going to prevent you from going forward. And there's no right or wrong about these beliefs. They're just things that we're talking about can affect you.
I think one of the things that we go to ask for money, especially from
Okay, but you brought up a really good point, because what you're talking about actually is, I'm going to, hold on. Well, I'll skip ahead on something. A gremlin. In coaching, we call them gremlins. That's where you believe I'm not good enough. In other words, what if they ask me a question that I can't answer? I really don't know myself. Haya said, you got to do your homework. But there's going to be times you've done every bit of homework and you still are feeling uncomfortable or don't know an answer. Okay? But what happens is we go in there thinking, I'm not good enough. What if they ask me something? And I'm not good enough gremlin stops us in our tracks, right? We all have an I'm not good enough gremlin, or 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 of them, okay? All of us. Okay. We also work on assumptions all the time. Assumptions are things that say, such as, I've been in debt my whole life, so I'm just going to always be in debt. I've tried my whole life to lose weight, never been able to do it. It's not going to happen. How many of us make assumptions like that? Okay, constantly. They stop us. They stop us from reaching the goals that we want to reach. If it happened before, it's going to happen again. Okay, I've never been able, well, those are some examples. I've never been able to get large donations before, so why go after them? Because I'm never going to be able to get one of those. What did you call them? There's a word for it, or like an elephant donation, or was it? I don't know. Yeah. In other words, why go after? Because I've never been able to get them before. That's an assumption that will stop you from asking for those big donations. Okay. What do you see?
Old man, young woman, old woman.
Okay. Who sees the young woman? Who sees the old woman? Does everyone see both?
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of hard to see. The point, why am I showing you this, do you think? Yeah, life is about our perception, our perspective on things. And we can choose to see things however we want, and that affects the outcome. Okay? Love this quote by Naismith. We don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. Okay? That determines our world, how we see things. So opinions and judgments that are created about an event, a person, or experience which you believe to be true. Sorry, that's there should be a title thing on that. And that's an interpretation. We constantly interpret. Let's say you're somewhere meeting a donor, a potential donor. You're at an event, and they are talking to you, and they seem really interested. And then all of a sudden, they kind of look away, or they start talking to somebody else. What's an interpretation you might come up with?
Lost interest in.
They lost interest in me because maybe I didn't wear the right outfit, or maybe I didn't articulate well enough. We start going into all these interpretations. Maybe they just, I don't know, saw someone they hadn't seen since college. You know what I'm saying? Like, we make all these interpretations about people's behavior, and then we base our action or inaction on that. Okay, that can stop us in our tracks. Those are just some examples. Okay, gremlins I mentioned, because you brought that up. Highly emotionally charged, we all have them when we're going to ask for money. Our gremlins are rampant. Okay? Beware of your gremlins. That's what we do as coaches. We help people become self-aware of their gremlins, and then we help them change their gremlins. And the way that we do that is by recognizing that every single thought we have results in a feeling, results in a behavior. Okay? You never have a feeling without having a thought first. Never. So it's a question of when you feel something, whether it's fear, whatever it is you're feeling, start asking yourself, what am I telling myself that's causing this fear? Okay? And then that will determine your behavior. Because if you're really afraid of asking for money, you're going to avoid going to the places where you can ask. You're going to find all kinds of ways to not do it. You're not going to go after the big stuff, right? Okay, these are just some examples, but I've been told, that I have to give, I do a lot of presentation training, for people who want to give presentations, and Jerry Seinfeld's take on the statistics that say that it's better, the statistics that say that the fear of getting up in front of a group is greater than the fear of death. And of course he says then you're better off when you're at a funeral, you're better off in the casket than giving the eulogy. Anyway, so that's just showing you how thought leads to feeling leads to action. So here's a typical scenario. How many can relate to that? Well, I have to make some cold calls, and I don't know if that's a big way that people are doing it now, but maybe some cold calls you have to make to raise some money. I'm probably going to mess up my script. I'm really going to look like a fool. Okay, these are the thoughts, right? Then you start to feel inadequate. You're terrified to pick up the phone. That's the feeling, terror and inadequacy, okay? And so what do? You avoid it. You find out all kinds of ways not to do it. That's the behavior, okay? Starts with the thought. So if we can change our thoughts around something, we can change our feelings and our behavior. Okay, so it's about replacing negative thoughts with positive. And I'm going to kind of go through this quickly. Reframing. Anyone familiar with the concept of reframing? Something we use in coaching all the time, and honestly, I can tell you it's changed my whole life. It's about taking things that happen, whether it be a large event in your life, whether it be a large event in the world, whether it be something that just happens to you. It's about choosing to see that event in a positive light. It's about finding opportunities in challenge, okay? And fundraising and asking for money is a challenge, and starting all of the things that you wonderful people are doing is incredibly challenging, okay? So it's looking for a positive intention behind a behavior. Again, there's choice here. It's about choosing to see it in a positive way. So here's some examples. I just got laid off from my job, but hey, now I have time to look for the kind of work I really love. Okay? You could go around moping about losing your job, or you could choose to see it that way. These are some other ones just about kids and so forth. And if all you have to do is listen to the news, or even listen to your own life and listen to your own thoughts, and 99% of them are probably negative, okay? That's why they lead to negative feelings. Okay, so it's about choosing to put a different frame around the things that happen to you. So it's kind of like the example Haya used. When you get that rejection letter, it's a gift. It's not, oh, woe is me, I got rejected. It's like fabulous. Now I can look at what I did wrong, and now I can learn from it, and the next time I can get the grant. Okay? That's reframe. Of course, you could say, darn another cold, or you can take some needed time. And here's some funny ones. I just put a hole in my bedroom wall. Yes, I get to start the closet that I always wanted. Or you could say, oh, darn, it's hailing. Or you could say, free ice. Okay? So again, these are just some things in terms of limiting beliefs. Start to notice what your limiting beliefs are about your organization, about maybe the people with whom for whom you're operating. Do you have beliefs about them? That could be negative? Do you have beliefs about yourself and your ability to really do what you're doing with your organization? Do you have your beliefs about fundraisers in general or donors in general? Look at all of those. They're limiting you. Sure, no problem. No problem. These are just this was just if we had time, what do you call it? Exercise that we could do, but it's something to do on your own. So really start to challenge some of those negative beliefs and assumptions and interpretations and gremlins. Gremlins are the ones that really get you. Okay, so it's really about looking at a new attitude towards your giver and really being very positive about yourself. And I think but one of the things we just want you to really recognize is that funders are partners. This is a co-creative venture. It's a co-creative venture. It's not about, oh, I'm begging for money. It's about, we're all here to create a better world. At least that's how I feel. We're all here to do that. Some people are the people who start the organizations and have the gift to be able to do that. Some people are the ones who might have the resources and the funds to be able to help them do that. But we're all co-working, co-creating together a better world. Okay? So thank you very much. I'm glad that I had this moment tonight. Any question?
What's the bar represented in the bar? Reframing.
Oh, reframing. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. Yeah, the reframing. Okay, thank you very much. Everyone have a safe journey home.
Thank you.